So now you have the possibility to cache API responses. And using caching, we've seen this in multiple different environments. Could be Elastic Cache, could be DynamoDB DAX. Here it's for API gateway. Using caching, we reduce the number of calls made to the backend. So here's a concrete example. Here's our client, and it's interacting with our API gateway. And so when we do a GET request, for example, on the API gateway, the API gateway is going to check its own cache if we enable it. And so if the cache has something in cache, we return this straight back to our clients. If there's a cache miss, so the cache doesn't have the data we need, then the API gateway will invoke our backend, get the result, send it back to our client, and put it in the cache. And so by using a cache, we reduce the number of calls made to our backend, which could really help with our latency. The default time to live in the cache is 300 seconds, so that's 5 minutes, and you can set it between 0 second and 3600 seconds, which is 1 hour. The caches are going to be defined per stage, so we can have a dev cache, a prod cache, and we can have the cache being bigger in prod than in dev, obviously. You can encrypt your cache, and you can have a cache of size between 0.5 gigabytes to 237 gigabytes. So depending on how big your API is and how much data you need to cache, you can just size the cache accordingly. There's a possibility to override cache settings for specific methods, so you get a lot of control over which methods should be cached and which methods shouldn't be cached. And you're able to flush the entire cache to invalidate it immediately from the console or using an API call. But there is a very important question also asked at the exam, which is, can clients invalidate the cache or bypass the cache? Yes, if they're authorized to do so, a client can use the header cache control max age equals 0, and that will just bypass the cache and make sure that the client get the data straight from the backend. Something that's very important to know. Using this header, the clients can go straight to the backend. So let's have a quick look at how we can enable the cache. Going to our pet store, for example, let's go to stages, dev, and in here I can enable the API cache. And so this increases cost and it's not covered by the free tier, so I won't say save, but I just want to see the options. The cache capacity can go between 0.5 to 237 gigabyte, as I said, but it is by increment, so you can choose all these values. We can encrypt the cache data, so if you wanted the data to be super secure. We can set the time to live in the cache. We can choose 300 seconds, but we can say, okay, I just want 60 seconds, so 1 minute of time to live in the cache. And we can say, okay, you can have a per key invalidation, and this requires authorization. So this is the header I just told you about. And then you can say, okay, in case the request is unauthorized, how would I want to say? Do I want to fail the request or ignore the header and so on? So this is it for the cache. It's very simple, and this is, again, at the stage level, and then once you enable it, you can override it at the resource level. So very simple, again, but a very powerful option to know about, and just know that you can have a per key cache invalidation by the clients using that header. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you in the next lecture.